Well, hello, everyone. My name is Dina Jackson, and I am Chief Operating Officer at the Texas Women's Foundation, and I also serve as co-chair of the Board of Directors of the Asset Funders Network. So on behalf of AFN, I would like to welcome you to today's Equity Amplifier conversation. Now, as a part of AFN's mission to engage philanthropy to advance equitable wealth building and economic mobility, it is critical that we create a space where funders can connect with their entire diverse community and elevate how funders are addressing concerns in a manner that is both intersectional as well as intensive. So to assist with those efforts, AFN has established the Equity Amplifier Spotlight Series that highlights the voices of minority-led organizations and nonprofits, and that focuses on building economic security and asset building in communities of color. The goal is to strengthen the pipeline, connecting leaders of color to members of the philanthropic community. This is part of a series of conversations that's going to help ensure that there is alignment between both the intentions and actions, as well as short-term and long-term impact on how we approach Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and immigrant communities. So with that, I would like to introduce Mona Kafil, Executive Director of the Texas Muslim Women's Foundation. Now we're going to learn a lot more about Mona's day job in just a minute. But in addition, Mona has served on a multiple of advisory boards, including the Asian Advisory Committee to Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, the Public Policy Commission of the Texas Council on Family Violence, and she's also an alumna of the American Muslim Civic Leadership Institute at USC. Mona, it's really great to have you here today.
Thank you, Dina. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Now, I have been with the Texas Women's Foundation for going on 10 years. And when I started, your grantee file was already thick and was already on my desk. So I am certainly a fan, and we have history together. But I'd like for you to share a little bit with the audience today about the work of the Texas Muslim Women's Foundation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dina. TMWF, Texas Muslim Women's Foundation, is a 16-year-old foundation and founded in Texas and Dallas. We serve the survivors of domestic violence through shelter programs, and we have transitional housing, and along with it, legal services. We also serve refugees. So all in all, our services are meant for domestic violence, family violence survivors, and along with it, what the whole gambit of, what it does to a family. So we have counselors, legal service, transitional housing.
Now, I've actually visited your domestic violence shelter a few times. And the first time I went, I have to say I was amazed at the breadth of home countries and languages that were represented, and that you all provide really culturally appropriate and focused care for. But can you talk to me a little bit today about how that diversity is also reflected in your staff and in your leadership?
Absolutely. So our staff, we are 45 staff members, paid staff members, and out of them, we have 15 languages spoken amongst all of us. And even in the board, we have seven countries represented in our 9-member board.
Wow, that is certainly significant. And you and I have talked now about the domestic violence piece, but I know that in the community, your staff does a whole lot more. And of course, there's a lot more to making sure that a survivor of domestic violence and her family are able to move on and be successful in life once she has escaped that situation. So talk to me a little bit about maybe a current or a planned asset building initiative or program that Texas Muslim Women's Foundation is spearheading as you really think about how it is impacting the economic security of the community that you work with.
Yes, absolutely. So most of our clients, we realize that economic abuse is a very serious one, and a lot of women do not leave abusive situation because of that instability. So I think for past 5 years, even I would say 6 or 7 years, we partnered with Bank of America. They implemented a financial literacy program with our survivors, and that really helped. After Bank of America, even last year, just before the COVID hit, we were implementing a program, financial literacy and saving program with I would say, Wells Fargo and Prosperity now. And what happened was that it was a saving program. We are trying to teach them to save after they've gone through domestic violence. And what happened was COVID hit and there was zero saving. So we had to pivot that program into, emergency funds. However, realizing that education, financial education is freedom, is also moving away from abusive situations. So over the years, even right now, as we speak, I have a volunteer teaching them financial literacy. And when I say financial literacy, it is as basic as, what do you do when you have a bank account? A lot of women do not even have a bank account. So we go to that level where we make them understand what is a checking versus savings. So we have gone through financial literacy and saving program all these years. And that really has helped quite a few people. And we open it up to people who are not even who are not our clients. So we know there are people in the community who are not leaving the abusive situation. When they understand, when they take these classes, they get some confidence to move on away from the abusive situation.
So Mona, that's really interesting. I mean, I know that from the other work I do with other shelters, that financial abuse, lack of credit is a huge stumbling block for women that are trying to get out of those situations. But think with, well, not all of your clients are from an immigrant basis. Do you feel that those that are immigrants, newer to our country, are they even having to start a little bit further behind on basic financial education than maybe someone who has lived in this country for a long time? Just differences in culture and in background?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we get a lot of clients who are internationally, they've come from different countries. And in fact, they land straight into our own shelter. Even now, the distrust of banking is so big in different countries that they would rather keep their money under the mattress or give it to them, to some family member or somebody else. So getting them to create a bank account is teaching them on many levels. So that is so basic that they cannot. And credit history or credit education even comes on later. And to a point where we have translated Allstate and other curriculum in their language. So they understand and they're comfortable. What does it mean when somebody abuses your credit score? So definitely we have to add few more modules to this basic education.
Well, and I know that empowering women is something that you and I both share a strong passion for. And financial literacy is power, right? And understanding, I mean, it really does let you know that you can do so much more with your life and to help your family and your children. So shifting gears just a little bit, part of the goals of today's conversation is to address racial bias in philanthropy. So in your experience, what are some specific barriers or biases that you may have seen within the philanthropic organizations that you work with that you think might be hindering minority-led or serving communities from actually accessing the financial support that they need and deserve?
Dina, you'll be amazed. I have learned so much, not only in Texas, but all over US, that minority-led, the issues that they face. Mm-hmm. Number one issue is women. If there is a mistrust of, minority and women, while they may not know about money. So there is an additional layer of, we need more information. We need more qualified people to give us financials from you. Audit. So, more audit with these agencies, female, minority-led. A lot across the board. I've seen that, it is a group of women with so much passion. How would they know how to run a business? So that is an added layer that we have to face, that, our partners, men or people who are of color, may not even face. So we are literally we are at the bottom of that bowl, where we have to prove ourselves consistently through money management, through program numbers, and kind of prove ourselves. Constantly we are proving ourselves. And hyper transparency. These are two big items. We have to be extremely transparent all the time. Anyone who's even passing, if we have an office here, somebody passing down the street, they will say, well, do you have your numbers straight? So these are two big issues that I've seen across board with minority-led and specifically women-led.
Okay, I'm embarrassed. I continually learn things every day in my job. I would not have thought that was the answer. I'm amazed, I have to say. You know, first of all, and I know that your books are great because you all do a lot of work with the federal government, and the federal government requires every single T to be crossed and I to be dotted. And so that is amazing, and how to answer those responses with a courteous response, right? Without saying, "Are you crazy?" But you wouldn't go there, would you?
No,
um,
in my heart, maybe, but no.
yeah, absolutely. So following along with that, that's a couple of important examples of things that we as foundations might be doing, hopefully unconsciously, but maybe in some cases consciously. So what are some maybe pieces of advice that you would give to a funder, or to a philanthropic organization as they're like making the first steps, right, to enter into and to work with a community of color, or a minority-led organization? What do we need to be thinking about from the philanthropic side?
I think the biggest thing is, are you willing to learn? Because I can tell you a simple grant given to minority-led may not fill in those grant requirements. And personally, I've seen that even with TMWF, that let's say, I'll give you an example. For a year, we have a target of meeting 280 clients or 300 clients. But the clients we serve, we cannot leave them. They cannot leave the shelter within 6 months or maybe 12 months. So our numbers will be possibly half of that. And we have gone back to the funders saying that the clients we deal are not somebody who knows the system. So we have to teach them the system. So when you look at TMWF, when you look at minority-led, their numbers may not be that high. So looking at data may not be true representation. So always keep that in mind, that the data coming from minority-led are very different than some organizations who are mainstream organizations where they are, helping someone who knows the system. So our numbers will never be great. That's number one. Number two, minority-led, specifically people with who need different language. You have to understand, hiring those people is not an easy, and training them. There are a lot right now at TMWF. I'm trying to start internship in counselors, internship with legal, mainly because I want those people with more language access coming in through. We need those languages. So I think it is a different dynamic with organizations such as ours rather than mainstream. And I think the language, one of the things, the services provided, language is a single most important aspect of people who are coming through our services, and healing in their own language, healing in people understanding the culture, the trust building happens. And I'll give you one example, the refugee program we started in 2019. We have a program director who herself is a refugee, and she came in, she settled in. She's the one who's teaching them. The trust building with that community happened within 2 meetings. She's able to, help them. So I think hiring, if you look from a perspective of, okay, what are your hiring practices? Do you see diverse population, and is that reflective of in your staff and board? That is an extremely important point. If we are serving diverse people and our staff does not showcase that, then there's a huge gap in services.
Thank you.
Understanding that is extremely important.
Well, thank you for your honesty. I mean, like I said, I know that it's not an easy question to put you on the spot, but it's truly helpful. And like I said, and you've brought up a couple of things that even after working with you for many years, and working with many organizations run by women and run by people of color, I would not have come up with. So thank you so much for joining with Asset Funders Network in this conversation today. But before we go, I want to make sure that you get the chance to let any funders that are viewing this video know can they learn more about Texas Muslim Women's Foundation.
Absolutely. So the first stop is always the website. And the second stop is always our hotline, Texas Muslim Women's Foundation. And we have hotline there. If you know somebody who's experiencing, because our organization is open to everyone. It is not only for Muslims. So that's one thing. Moving forward, again, we are expanding at a warp speed. I wish we were out of business, but then as COVID continues, we see a lot of clients. So our services are expanding. If you feel you can support us through our services, we have refugees, we have financial literacy, we have many more. We have youth and mental health, many services. So website is our first point of contact where you can learn more and see if there's something that speaks to you.
Well, and I know that in the community, you all are also a real leader and engaged in cross-cultural and cross-faith organizations that are bringing empathy and compassion all across the lines here in North Texas. And for that, I really thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Once again, thank you everyone for watching Equity Amplifier today. Take care.